Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Recon and I have another video for you guys. We're going to be covering the Servants this time, and we're going to go over whether you're a new player or an established player in the game, which ones are going to be good for you. And before we get into today's video, if you have not subscribed to the channel and you are new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe. It is free and I really appreciate your support. With that being said, let's get into this video. Alrighty ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to get into Servants. We're going to start off with early new game players that are just starting out the game, and then we'll get further on with more established players. So as a current new player to the game, there is 8 pets. Now you'd be wondering, which one do I do? People have lots of questions which ones to use. But the best one 100% to use when you're just starting off is Hunter. The reasons being is that she helps boost your attack, whether it be PvE modes, and it helps out in PvP a little bit, just early mid-game starting out. She's going to boost your armor break on the second ability and your position of the third ability. So second ability is going to be right here, and the third ability is going to be right here. With that third ability, she's going to boost precision. The second is armor break. Lastly is all of the servants on the last one. The last ability is going to be boosting your speed. This is a big key point. Now all of the abilities are going to have HP and attack little boosts with them. They're a nice little extra caveat to have with your girls, but mostly second and third abilities are really important which ones to choose, and you just remember that the fourth one always has speed. So the main ability of Hunter is going to be 265,551 damage against 4 random enemies, dealing an extra 246,482 bleed damage each round for 3 rounds, granting 4 random allies 65% extra damage on bleeding enemies for 2 rounds. So essentially, she's going to do damage, and then she's going to deal bleed damage on them for 3 rounds. But the big thing to take away is here that they're marked with bleed. As long as they're marked with bleed, a bleed mark, the 4 girls on your team, 4 random ones, are going to get 65% extra damage on the bleeding enemies. If you're starting out, just go straight with Hunter. Now, as we get into mid-game and end-game, we're going to cover it right here next, because this is the only one for early game that you should be worried about. So don't worry about any other servants. I'm not going to cover any of those for early game because they are irrelevant. Hunter is the go-to, period. No discussion about that. Just do it. All right. That being said, now we're going to get into mid and late game, and we're going to be covering a lot more servants because it gets a little bit more dynamic there in that aspect. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to do end game servants. We're going to cover PvP and PvE. We're going to knock PvE out real quick. It's pretty easy, self-explanatory. The 2 to use for PvE in the endgame is going to be Hunter and Robert. Robert is going to boost your crit chance and crit damage from the second and third abilities. Fourth one is always speed, as always. And then the active that the servant's going to do is going to be stuns, 36% chance to stun, which is not really a big thing in this aspect of PvE, but the big aspect is going to grant 4 random allies 60% extra holy damage for 2 rounds. So that can be really big on getting that extra boost of extra damage on that boss that you're fighting to get more damage, whether it's practical work, sanctuary, or maybe security squad, stuff like that. Now we already covered Hunter and the abilities that Hunter can do, but it's still the premise of it's dealing extra damage as far as boosting the damage from getting the bleed stacks. Now, an honorable mention here for PvE can be Elixir. If you have an all-poison team, this can work really well with Elixir because it's the same stats as Hunter, but it's not just the many poison girls that are going to be end-game as far as usually it's just Crystal. But if you have, let's say in the future, an all-poison team, you can do Elixir. And then the last honorable mention for PvE is going to be Sea Serpent. Sea Serpent's mostly going to be if you have crowd control is your main focus on PvE. So she kind of helps boost there. Not really big thing, great. This still does a lot of damage. Just depends on which PvE girl, which girls you're going to use for PvE that are crowd control. The main one's going to be NGIF. She's going to do a lot with multiple LB5s of her, but you're going to need a lot of them. Okay, now that we have PvE out of the way and it's over and done with, it's pretty easy to pick which ones. It's just 2 there to pick from. PvP, you're going to have a little bit more choices to choose from. It's all going to depend on what girls you're using and what teams you're fighting against. So it can get a little bit complicated. Now, I'm not going to break down that as much. I'm just going to tell you which ones are to use and which ones they can help with. But if you have further questions on the teams that you're facing and which one would be good to use with the girls that you have, I would ask in the Discords or someplace where you can ask someone that's knowledgeable that can help break that down a little bit easier for you. Now, as far as which ones not to use in PvP, we're just going to say real quick. Void, Elixir, Sea Serpent, don't use those ones. Hunter is okay. If that's what you have to use as your third one, you can go ahead and use it, but the other 4 ones are going to be better. So Floria, Robert, Deerling, and Kraken are going to be your go-to for PvP. The best one right off the bat is going to be Deerling. Deerling is going to heal you. It's going to boost your attack and your armor. And her second ability boosts your armor, and her third ability is going to boost your block rate. So that can help out with Fenrir or some other girl that's using blocks to help boost to block damage. Second one usually people are going to run is Robert. Robert is really good in AD teams or demon team only or an angel team, or if you just need some extra boosted damage. Or Rogue actually benefits hugely from Robert. Anybody asks me which servant I need to run with what on my team, and I always see a Rogue on the team, I go Robert, because he's going to help boost that crit rate chance of the Rogue, and it's going to make it way more valuable in that aspect, and the crit damage. So if you're running a Rogue as your main damage dealer, Robert's going to be your main to go for as boosting your Rogue even higher. After Robert is you're going to pick the next one, Kraken. Kraken is kind of the reverse of Deerling's active. It's not going to heal you, but it's going to reduce the armor and speed of the enemies, and it will also boost your attack as well. As far as the second and third ability, it's going to be precision and holy damage. So a good way to run with the Kraken is going to be, let's say you have a Jonah and you need to get our precision over 100% because you're fighting a Fenrir and there's a lot of them in your server, and you have the Soul Destruction or Wings of Icarus to go with your Jonah. This can help out a lot as well and give you some extra holy damage to deal. And we've already said that what the active does, it's just a reverse of Deerling in a little bit extra different sense, but just doesn't heal. Of course, the last ability is always going to be speed boost. And the last one that you can use in PvP is Floria. Now, Floria has a little bit of a niche as far as she getting to use. Her active is going to deal damage, and then it's going to reduce the attack, crit, and crit damage by 30% for 2 rounds on the 4 random girls that it will hit. And then it will remove 1 debuff from 4 random allies. Now, that seems pretty good. Now, it depends on who you're going against. If you're going against an AD team, this can work very well to try and remove Neff's heal debuff marks, and also reduce, let's say, Kratos' crit chance and attack and crit damage. She also boosts the armor and the block rate. So, if you already have your another takeaway from this is if you're already using your Deerling, you on, let's say, a Fenrir on the team, or your Fenrir is not the greatest, but you're already using your Deerling, and you're like, well, my Fenrir is not that good, I need some extra block rate. Floria is a go for that. You can just be like, well, her active's not bad, she's going to boost the block rate of my Fenrir, which is going to help get her over that 100% mark. So I'm going to do that. That's perfectly fine. You can do that. She's very niche, Floria, how you can use her, so just be aware of that. But the 3 main ones are going to be is Deerling, Robert, and Kraken for PvP. Go with that. And if you don't have them all and you still have your Hunter, you can go ahead and use that. Once you get 4 of them made, let's say you have Hunter you're starting off with, then go Deerling, then go Robert, and then Kraken, and then you're set. You don't have to do anything. And then if you get really far into endgame and you're getting really into complicated teams, you're trying to spice things up and you have a little bit of an issue, you can do that Floria to help out with, let's say you're having a certain problem, that you can try and solve it with that. But that's very niche, just remember that. So she should be the last one. The rest of them, don't worry about building them. They're not very important. Maybe on in the future they may become important, but if that happens, just ask in the Discord, whether it be mine or the official Discord, as far as information to go as the game gets further on into its years of going, are these finally useful? Do we finally have a niche for them? So that will be later on. You're just going to have to ask for that. That's it for today's video I've got for you guys. If you have any comments, complaints, concerns, comment down below this video or reach me on my Discord. I'm always willing to help you out. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.